Well, immigration is always going to be a tough issue in our nation.
What kind of issues you're talking about? You talking about people letting people in order to get votes?
It's not. There's not that level kinds. I don't think there's that level kinds of organization.
But there is an organization that's moving these people to swing states that will be used to essentially rig those states and turn them blue forever.
I'm not really sure if that's what's in play. I think it's really it's important that we have to have an honest conversation.
But doesn't that seem logical though? If you have a significant number of people that are being moved into swing states,
Joe Rogan leaves sleazy Senator John Fetterman speechless when he presses him on the Democrats' plan with illegal immigration. Why do I say sleazy? Because no matter where he goes, whether it's in Congress, in the Senate, he wears a sweatshirt in his profile picture. As a U.S. Senator, he wears jackets and stuff, and he tries to justify why that's okay, and he doesn't have respect for the office with which he holds. But he's also just a tool of the Democrat Party, and Joe Rogan, thankfully, recently called him out on that, and John had zero answer, zero rebuttal to this logic that Joe Rogan laid out. It's Sean Daniel here. If you guys enjoy the videos, consider subscribing or supporting me with a super thanks donation down below or joining my membership down below. Let's get into it.
First Democrats saying, hey, though, we need a secure border. It's a significant issue. And if I thought there was any kinds of issues, and I've been very vigilant throughout, I've been actively involved in those kinds of things, and I've never witnessed those kinds of a thing.
What do you mean by issues? Like what kind of issues you're talking about? You talking about people letting people in order to get votes?
It's not. There's not that level kinds. I don't think there's that level kinds of organization.
But there is an organization that's moving these people to swing states. There's a significant number of these people that are illegal immigrants that have made their way to swing states. And then there's been calls for amnesty. There's been calls for allowing these people to have a pathway to citizenship and allow them to vote. The fear that a lot of people have is that this is a coordinated effort to take these people that you're allowing to come into the country, then you're providing them with all sorts of services like food stamps and housing and setting them up, then providing a pathway to amnesty, and then you would have voters that would be significantly voting towards the Democrats because they're the people that enabled them to come into the country in the first place and provided them with those services. This is a big fear that people have, and that you're rigging this system and that this will turn all these states into essentially locked blue like California is.
Well, immigration is always going to be a tough issue in our nation. I had as a professor in grad school, Alan Simpson, and he was a United States senator. He was Wyoming, and he was actually a pro-choice Republican. I mean, how rare that would be. Well, it doesn't exist now. And he said, you are never going to have any meaningful immigration kinds of legislation. He's like, because both sides, that's useful for them, and it's going to be back and forth. And he said that 25 years ago.
Useful meaning the debate, having it always a political
it's
talking
useful
point.
for one side or the other. It's
right.
useful, and he said they were never going to be, and he said that in 1999.
Mm-hmm.
And I voted for the border deal, and that went down. And that's, I mean, he said that 25 years ago, and that was absolutely true now, that they had an opportunity to do a comprehensive border, bipartisan, and that went down because Trump, he declared that's a bad deal after it was negotiated with the other side.
But didn't that deal also involve amnesty, and didn't that deal also involve a significant number of illegal aliens being allowed into the country every year? I think it was 2 million people. So it was still the same sort of situation, and their fear is exactly what I talked about, that these people will be moved to swing states, and that will be used to essentially rig those states and turn them blue forever.
I'm not really sure if that's what's in play. I think it's really like it's important that we have to have an honest conversation.
But doesn't that seem logical, though? If you have a significant number of people that are being moved into swing states that have come across the border illegally, and then you've provided them with all these services, you provided them with food stamps, EBT, you've provided them with housing. You could, if you gave those people amnesty and allowed those people to vote, and it was very organized. You're talking about 75,000 votes over a few counties that switched everything over to the Republicans. You could see how you import 10 million people over the course of 4 years illegally and then move a significant number of them to swing states and then provide them with all these services and then give them a path to citizenship. You could essentially rig those states.
Undeniably, immigration is changing our nation. I mean, I haven't spent a lot of time in Texas, but it's very clear that immigration has remade Texas, and I think it's for a good thing.
You see how he has zero answer because he's a United States Senator, okay? He knows the plan behind the scenes, but he doesn't even have a practiced, rehearsed answer when confronted with the truth. Why? Because the truth is so logical, as Joe Rogan said. He knows how many people are coming into the country. He knows that the border bill offered to allow 2 million illegals a year to come in, continue to get amnesty and things like that. And he cannot explain it. Logic will win. You can keep lying, keep manipulating the truth to the American people. Trump tried to kill this bill. But when confronted with logic with real people like Joe Rogan, not these manipulated CNN reporters who will go there and, oh, John, you're so great. Trump's so bad. He has zero answer. Before we see another bad clip of Senator Fetterman in his sweatshirt, listen to how JD Vance explains another level to the illegal immigration plan and how it affects elections, not just swing states, but something else.
The reason why we have a border crisis, it is by design. Biden is invading the country with people who he knows are going to vote disproportionately for Democrats. And this is an important point. Again, I didn't realize this until a few weeks ago. California has 5 more congressional representatives than it should. Do you know why? They count illegal aliens for purposes of assigning apportionment in Congress. So when these guys flood the country with millions of people who shouldn't be here, they destroy the voting power of citizens in our own republic. This is by design, and this is maybe the last very good chance we have to stop it in 2024.
It is something else.
Not only can illegals affect the presidential election by having more illegals in a swing state to bring down the margin of votes, but states can have more congressional representatives, like California, who has 52 congressional representatives, based on population. If they continue to count illegals as their population, they could have maybe 54, 55, 56, 60 congressional representatives in Congress, which means Congress has more blue people in it to then pass blue bills that obviously we know are not great for America. So it's not just with the presidential election. Now let me show you guys more about the character of Senator Sweatshirt John Fetterman and how he tries to defend kids being transgender and how he tries to vilify Trump in his statements against this.
One of the most prevalent Trump campaign ads has been attacking Kamala Harris for her stance on trans rights. The ad ends with a tagline, quote, "Kamala is for they, them, President Trump is for you." Is that resonating in Pennsylvania?
Again, it's like if your political capital comes from picking on trans kids or gay kids or anything like that, you're just bankrupt throughout all of this. You know, my version of being a man is like, hey, I like ribeyes, I like Motorhead, and I'm never going to pick on trans kids and gay kids or things. And it's just sad that the other side choose to kind of pick on members of those community. And I've said this throughout my entire career, that if you think that I have to turn our backs on their community, then you can vote for somebody else. But I'm unwilling to ever do that. And again, it's just a warped version of, it doesn't make you tough. It doesn't make you a man to pick on trans or gay kids. It just makes you an asshole.
But politically, the Trump campaign believes that has some resonance with suburban parents, with men in the communities of color. You don't see that?
No, I don't speak about members and their views of a member of a community. I'm not part of that community, but my views have been very clear throughout all of this. But I will say though that if you're willing, and if you think if that makes you, tough, or it makes you more edgy to pick on members of that community, like I said, it's just sad, and it's just reflective of their desperation throughout this entire campaign.
That is one of the twisted logic, backhand attacks that the left tries to use on politicians and even to us as everyday Americans. That when you take a stand against an incorrect principle, like allowing kids to transition without parental consent, which California likes to do, where Kamala Harris is from California, she's super liberal like California. When Trump stands up to that principle, he's attacking trans kids. So really, Trump is more of a man, and the Republicans are more men than this guy who tries to act tough, not only because he takes a stand against that, but this guy doesn't even have the respect for his office of being a United States Senator, which only 100 people in the United States get to be. He's not even willing to wear a suit or at least something decent and order and decently, just something nice. And it shows you how out of touch he is with regular Americans who obviously see that idea, that ideology, that policy of allowing kids to transition without parental consent, even allowing kids to transition, as just wrong. But he's in his elite bubble, can't see that, and he's like, I don't know why anyone would think that's bad. But don't worry, he's not running for president. Trump is. And we had Joe Rogan embarrass him just with plain logic, like it is so easy to do with so many liberal politicians and people. It's SeanDaniel here. If you guys enjoyed the video, consider subscribing, and I will see you in the next one.